Hi, my name is Jordan. I am a special education teacher from the UK. I share my passion for everything communication, sensory regulation and fun lesson ideas for my classroom of disabled pupils aged 4 to 11. Each week, I am joined by experts in the field, answering your questions and sharing our knowledge and experience working alongside our beautiful young people. Let's get started. Hello everybody. Today, all about Attention Autism. Lorraine Scott, the co-owner and director of Attention Autism, is joining us for this live, which is so exciting. What better way to start, whilst we're waiting for Lorraine to come on, than show you the latest addition to my Attention Autism box. I got one of these things. I've been after one for a while. It's one of these, and I saw it was at Smith's Toys. And look, ready? Wow, right? Is that? I mean, the kids are gonna go crazy for it, right? The thing that sold it to me, oh, here she comes. The thing that sold it to me is I saw a lady put it into a bubble bucket, and then when she lifted it up and like spun it around, all the bubbles went everywhere. And how amazing for Attention Autism is that? Bubbles. And so yeah, that is my show and tell this live. I just think, I mean, you just can't get more mesmerising than that, can you? The kids are going to love it. I'm a bit worried it's looking a little bit fragile, but so it'll be a stage 2 activity. Yeah, I just think they're going to love it. Right, Lorraine, let's get you. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, Jordan. How are you?
Hi, Ed.
Okay.
So for everyone, the comment section now is going to be tiny, so we're just going to have to moderate as we go. Lorraine, look what I got.
I'm watching you. It's absolutely fabulous.
They're fab, aren't they?
Yeah. And actually, Jordan, it reminded me of something I saw online where someone put a slinky into bubble mixture and then stretched it out and it went down like that. It was cool. Now, I haven't tried it.
Oh, I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah, it looks
awesome. I think the best bit about Attention Autism, obviously we're going to go into everything, is that it's just permission to play, isn't it, as the adult? I'm just as excited about this as my kids are going to be.
You're loving it just as much, Jordan.
Absolutely.
That is
absolutely.
Yeah,
for an adult that doesn't have any children, my lounge is filled. It's quite embarrassing with toys. All of these things. Yeah. Because they're just great, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I bet your car is the same way.
Every bag as well. Every bag has something under it. Now, some of you may already do Attention Autism in your sector or your sessions, or your children. You might have heard about Attention Autism because they do it at school, or it might be something that you've seen me do online and you kind of want to hear a little bit more about it. And that's why I wanted Lorraine on here today, so that we hear it from you and we hear it how it should be done, because it's been going on for a long time now, hasn't there? So naturally there are updates.
Yes, there are definitely updates, Jordan. So, so full confession to everyone, we met on Saturday in real life.
We did.
The Autism Birmingham show. So we feel like we're buddies now, yeah?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm fully fangirling that I'm WhatsApping Lorraine Scott. I'm just saying.
Well, we really appreciate what you're doing, Jordan. You are you're doing such a great job. And we talked on Saturday just about the fact that it has been a while since you did your training. Yeah. And I was saying that yes, you're absolutely correct. Like any good program, there are updates. So we're going to work together on that, and you're going to get some updates. And then, but in terms of the concepts that you're bringing across, they're absolutely. Our philosophies are the same, I can see. So it's really lovely to see you using it in really innovative ways and very child-centered ways. And it's so we very much appreciate that. Thank you.
That's amazing. I've done it with 2 of my classes now. How special ed works usually, I don't know, I've had the same class for 5 years twice. So even though I've been teaching for 15 years, I've only had 2 classes, which is so weird, isn't it? Yeah. I've worked with over 400 children around that, but yeah, 2 classes as a special needs teacher. And in both of them, they're very, very different children, but I've seen had such an impact. The biggest impact has been Attention Autism, adding it to each class. Wow. And I've been lucky enough to introduce it to both classes. I was there when it was introduced both times. And yeah, it has such a huge impact within the session, but even more importantly, I'm sure you would agree, outside of the session as well, with the children's confidence to communicate, ability to communicate, want to even notice that there's other humans there that are willing to engage with them. You know, some of our children are so lost, and I feel like that's where attention autism comes into its own, is trying to reach these lost children.
I mean, the whole premise is that it gives the children something to communicate about, something fabulous to communicate about. And what we think is happening with the programme, you're saying it has a big impact, and it's really lovely to hear that. And we hear it so much. And we know it ourselves. Lindsay and I took over from the fabulous genius Gina Davies just over a year ago, because we experienced that with our children in our classrooms and then their jobs, and just knew the value of it by doing it over and over and seeing the progress. And also when we were talking to colleagues, they're saying, we love doing it, and the children love to be in the groups. And so if you like doing something, you're seeing progress with the children, you're going to do it repeatedly.
Yeah.
And that's why it gets embedded. But like you say, if you're doing it for 20 and 30 minutes twice a week and it's working, then the important piece is taking all those principles and putting them in. It's purely good autism practice. So using them out in the classroom, having your whiteboard or whatever you're using visually, modeling and demonstrating, adapting your language to suit the learning style of the children.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Exactly. For those that don't know or have only seen little snippets of attention autism, could you just, I suppose, attention autism first, and then we can go on to the curiosity program in a bit. What it is, what it looks like, I suppose, at each stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny to be asked that, Jordan, because, you know, part of me feels like so many people
just know.
No,
but I heard lots of people saying things like, okay, so we're done with the bucket now, and like, what's next? I'm like, oh no, you keep going with the bucket. So if you could just describe like what.
Yes. We do hear that too, of course. We go in now to schools and people will say, once they realise there's something to do with attention autism, they'll say, we do that, we do the bucket. And I say, that's brilliant. And Lindsay, my partner, business partner, we talk about this sometimes, where people say, I do bucket time. And we say, and what else do you do? And they're like, what else is there?
Yeah.
So
because, and that's probably people like, my thought is the bucket is so much easier to show online because it is just you and the bucket. And I find it really hard to film stage 3 effectively because I'm just on my own. Yeah. So it's really hard. I mean, I don't know if you saw the one with me with a massive rabbit toy. I was like, this is your child. Because it's really hard to show stage 3 online. So maybe that's probably people like Apple. That we're just trying.
Maybe you could get some supporting adults
willing to be filmed. That's the hard thing. Adults are much harder to convince to be filmed than children.
Yeah, we're hard to get permissions for filming the children. So yeah, stage 3, it's much easier to film stage 1 and 2. But the other 2 stages, they're equally as impactful. But if I'll just describe them.
Yeah, brilliant.
While I'm on here, in case people don't know or would like to know beyond stage 1. So the premise is that we provide this irresistible invitation to learn. So we are presenting fascinating things, and often from a bucket in the early years. And people call it bucket time. Actually, a lot of the time it's called bucket time. That's fine, but it does not have to be a bucket. It could be a bag. It could be a toolbox. It could be a hat. The important thing is that there's a lid on it. So there's a surprise. It's magical what's coming out of the bucket, and the children can't see it. So it's something that they'll be, hopefully, when they know what's on offer, really engaged with. And it's just about locking on, attending to what's going on at the front. The children are either in the group. Lots of times they come and just join the group, or they might be watching from a distance if they're not quite sure what's going on yet, or they haven't seen it before. They're a little uncomfortable with being in groups, but the aim for us as the lead person, the lead teacher, is that they're watching and interested and engaged. And it's just tops 2 minutes, and you're modelling and demonstrating to them where you want them to look. So you might have something fabulous like this guy in the bucket, who dances. Now, I don't know if I can turn them on here. Okay, like
Right, hanging out with you is going to be expensive for my for my budget. I can tell already.
very Mama, he is. Yeah, I agree. But you're right, it's a great point, Jordan. It does not have to be expensive. You can use what you've got. The hope, but you want it to be, though it doesn't have to be expensive, you want it to be fabulous and something that the children aren't playing with for the rest of the day, because then it gets a little old. It's not as engaging and as exciting right away. So you do want to invest in boys. And like you said, not joking when we're saying we want to love them too. I love that guy, you know, he's fabulous. Favourites.
And is there a certain number of toys to bring out of the bucket?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.
Things happen in 3s, don't they, with Attention Autism? Often. Yeah.
They do, and a little bit with the curiosity program as well. The premise being, you know, you see it one time, and that's interesting. You see it another time, and you're like, oh, I've seen that before. You see it one more time, and you're like, oh, I'm comfortable with this. This, I know. So yeah, repetition is a good thing. So we're saying three toys, three something really nice and engaging out of the box, basket, bucket, whatever it is for stage 1. A couple of minutes, and then move on. Obviously, I'm not going to go into every detail. There's a lot more to it than that.
You need the proper training. I pinned a comment actually that just says, do the official training. This is just a very quick overview.
My colleague Lindsay, when she describes a stage 1, at the end she goes, who knew there were so many things to taking something out of a bucket? But obviously it's because we are adapting our style to suit the learning needs of the children, and that, if you're neurotypical, takes some learning.
Right. So I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
It just takes a little bit, because it feels unusual to, for example, to sing a song or say a rap and look at the bucket instead of the children. Yeah. But why we're suggesting that is because we don't want to put social pressure on them. In the early days, they're already thinking, what is this? Not too sure. So we're trying to make it as safe a space as possible for them.
Yeah.
Adapt our style for that. And we also make use of whiteboards so that we tell them up front, this is what's going to happen. First we're going to do a bucket, then we're going to do whatever it is we do later on. But in the early days, we're just doing stage 1. Yeah. Stage 2, then we are sustaining attention for a bit longer. So it might go up to 5 or 6 minutes, maybe slightly more. And it's usually something really sensory, like we're presenting a sensory experience to them. So it could involve pouring water, it could involve pouring sand, or
something quite visual, isn't it?
Glitter, something visual and something colourful. We talk in the training having a really good contrast
and sounds as well, because obviously there's a reason why you pour water from up high, right? It's not just seeing it, it's the sound, isn't it? It always slows the process down as well. I feel like it's
it's quite
and visual
for everyone.
Yeah.
Really engaging, you know, because it's a lovely sensory experience is what you're going for with stage 2. But as well as that, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun and engaging for the children, and errorless learning. They are there watching, enjoying it, and quite often engaging verbally. And the programme is for attention, engagement and communication. And so it is that's the aim, is that we want the children to engage in whatever they are. If that's non-speaking, then we're looking out for non-speaking attempts at communication, where what we call receiving and reflecting those. If it's verbal, fantastic, we're receiving and reflecting those. And I'm getting slightly off topic, but we're busy. The lead is quite busy with the bucket and all the ways to deliver it. And same thing with the other stages. So our supporting adults, Jordan, as you know, we've talked about this, are really key. And it's their role to make sure they're not missing any communicative attempts from the children, and just being encouraging around those, you know. So if a child's really excited about something, then the supporting adult is also really excited about it. Or child is not that excited, the supporting adult is still very
Yeah.
interested in
They're modelling. Yeah, that was one of the questions actually. How as a teacher assistant or a support assistant, how can they best support the session? And I think you've absolutely said it perfectly there. It's modelling what we would love to see the children doing, and almost giving the children permission to do that, to be excited about it and to engage in it.
Yeah. So your team, the lead adult and the supporting adults in the group are absolutely working together as a team. So a little bit of training for them is excellent. You know, even if they haven't been on the full Attention Autism program, and as you say, that's the key piece because it puts everything into place for you. They still need a little bit of information about what to do because it might look unusual because it's
it will look unusual.
It will look unusual.
I think we become disillusioned because we do it all the time. It 100% looks very unusual.
And also we are not insisting that the children are in the group.
Yeah.
So they're off at some stage and we're saying just model and demonstrate what it looks like to be in the group. That's great. That is success if they're watching from a distance. And that can be hard for supporting adults if you haven't been trained as to why you are doing that. So that's helpful, is to know that information. No chasing, no insisting. Just let the children watch from a distance, that's fine. Or come to the group. And if come to the group, that's fabulous. They'll sit beside you. Don't make a massive fuss. We're just modelling and demonstrating. And then they might say something. So if I had this guy and I looked at it and said, a dancing llama, they might say, fantastic, to encourage that. Or they might say, dancing llama. So it's supposed to be natural, Jordan. It's supposed to be just the natural back and forth, almost conversation, but not a reciprocal back and forth of sentences, just the predictable sequence, predictable language. But you wouldn't say, you know, if I said, oh, dancing llama, and you said dancing llama, and then I had something else like, oh, roaring dragon, and you said roaring dragon, that would get weird. So we certainly do some repetition, but you might pepper that when you got confident with, like, oh, it's yellow, or wow, or something like that, you know, that was just natural.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a natural back and forth team work system. Yeah. But it takes some practice, and
absolutely, for the adults and the children.
Absolutely does. And what we've learned is that it is quite hard to use your voice. You draw attention to yourself when you're using your voice. And I saw you doing those lovely vocals with your fancy ball. And in front of the children, that's easy, but in front of adults, that's not so easy. So we take that into consideration and try to make it a safe space for everyone.
Yeah.
So and be a little bit relaxed and see it as a safe environment to play, enjoy it.
And that's something I've never considered actually, but embedding that philosophy into your room in those sessions is a little practice. But then outside of the room, what outside the lesson, what a beautiful way to embed that is that trust, and that we're all here for the children, we're all here for the same reason. We can be silly in this class, we can make mistakes in this class. Like, that's so important. It's something I hadn't considered actually about Attention Autism, is it's our opportunity to, as adults, teach each other and show each other, like, you cannot be too silly in this room. Like, you cannot be, as long as you're about the children and it's for the children, everything is okay. And we will never laugh at you. We will laugh with you, and we will encourage it. And I think that's really, it's a great safe session to practice those skills, because like you say, as neurotypical adults, it's so alien to us to be silly, isn't it? And to let go.
We can do it all day long in front of children, but other adults, you tend to calm it down a little bit. And you know, you don't have to, in Attention Autism, always be switched on and you know, hyper and use massive facial expressions, but you do a lot of the time. But sometimes you might be teaching something that has happened that has been a bit sad, and so your tone might be a little bit sadder, but it's a way, or more sad, is sadder a word? Don't know. But you would be presenting it in a different way with a different vibe. But a lot of the time what you're doing is using it to teach things like emotion, like facial expression. Those are all the sort of soft skills that are hidden around it, and things like you're saying, like feeling safe to be silly if it's for the child, or hamming it up a little bit and that being okay, you being absolutely encouraged by whatever adults are around to do that if that's working for that particular child. We individualize it, because some children are shy and don't want that, and then you have to adapt a little bit for them. It's about
I think that deserves to be mentioned as well, actually. If a child, I have it often where a child doesn't really want to have a turn, or they don't really want to be watched, and again, I just respect that. I'm like, okay, like, that's your consent. Like, there's nothing in attention autism, and this comes up often, of forcing a child to do anything they're uncomfortable with. It's encouraging all adults and children in the room to maybe get outside their comfort zone and build confidence and self-esteem in that way, but it's certainly not pushing anyone.
No, it's really, that's one of the big principles of it is, children, we want them to be there because they love what's on offer and they're really enjoying it. And we were saying on Saturday, actually the opposite of that happens, where you're like, try and stop them.
I could not stop. As soon as I get the back out, I could not stop the children coming. For the most part. It's not perfect, obviously. I don't want anyone to think, oh, my children don't. It's not perfect. We're 3 years in now, and they just know that it's bucket time. In fact, I missed it, and I gutted. I had a PPA time, and apparently one of my did the entirety of bucket, stage 1, 2, and 3. Took 3 things out of the bucket, everything, did the whiteboard, everything. He's non-speaking, he's echolalic, but obviously was echoing my everything. Even did the finishing song, everything.
Wow.
And I wish I saw it. Because it just brings me, I wasn't in the room, they told me about it afterwards. But that just brings me so much joy, because you try and stop them doing it. You're like, she's not in the room, we're still doing it, I'll lead it.
We hear that so much, and we actually do put into our training that it's great if there's an opportunity for role reversal when the children are comfortable. We really encourage that. So then you'd still, if that was happening in the room and there wasn't even a group around, the kid was just decided he was doing it, you would still be a really encouraging, supporting adult. You would be
of course.
And we hear really great stories all the time about children going and finding something like a piece of paper or a whiteboard or
and doing it,
and drawing buckets and giving it to their teacher to say,
I want a bucket. I love it. I love that so much.
That's about the voice of the child, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's their request, isn't it? That's their motivator.
Yeah. And sometimes people will say, they hadn't actually made a mark with anything before. They had no interest in that. But again, it's really motivating. So
it gives it a purpose, doesn't it? Marking for no reason maybe just didn't give them anything, give them any feedback. But marking for a purpose, like a request something they want, which is exactly what the whiteboard is showing them in Attention Autism.
Exactly. It's that, Jordan, honestly, it comes back to that, is they really want to do it and they want to be there, again, once they know what's on offer. But I think where things get skewed is that professionals see the group and people have maybe picked things up here and there, from people who've done the training, or they did it years ago and they've forgotten, or they didn't have children that they thought maybe would fit in the group, so they pick it up 5 or 6 years in and they've kind of don't remember the premise, and then people see practice that's not high quality, and then think you should, Attention Autism insists that the child sits in the group, which we have.
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
Things get skewed, really. So our response to that is talk to us, come to us directly and have a chat, basically. And also we are in the process of doing training that involve updates. So you won't have to do, no one's expecting people to do the whole training again, but give us an hour of your time and jump in for the updates, because things change in education all the time in every area, and you want to move and adapt while remaining autism.
And clarify as well. Some things maybe were assumed before, and you want to clarify what these things are. Yeah, they are questions I get a lot often actually about children being, do they have to sit? And also another question is how do you get them to want to join? My answer to that is be more fun. If they're not wanting to join, then they're meeting their special interests enough, or I'm not meeting their sensory needs enough, or I'm not being big enough, or sometimes I'm being too big, and
right.
I need to, whatever it is, you kind of want to tune in to the children, and then they will want to come if you do it right. So it's not about adapting them and moving them to us. It's very much about, okay, I'll change up my toys then, or maybe this doesn't reach them. Maybe I'll try something else. So if you're one of those teachers it's just not working, they don't want to join, well, one, what are your supporting adults doing? Are they modelling what we're expecting? Because the kids might not know what you want them to do. And then also, just kind of change up your resources and see if that helps.
Reflection goes a really long way with everything that you do in a classroom or any classroom. So you would reflect on what's happening. Could you do something different? Would it be more interesting to do it this way? How can we make them feel more comfortable? Just to watch and then go from there. And, Jordan, if the child isn't interested after a couple when you're doing your best and you've had team meetings and you're looking at things that they like and you're adding them in and the children are not that engaged, then we'd say, well, let's try something else first. Maybe go to intensive interaction, the curiosity program type approach. They may not actually be ready for.
That is a great segue, Lorraine.
Yes.
Into the curiosity program, because often that is what I suggest. So if somebody says, I'm one-to-one with my pupil, they are working at 12 months, 18 months developmentally, we're one-to-one, they just want everything out of the bucket, they tip it up, they put stuff back in. What am I doing wrong? What should I do? And I say, hang on, whoa. You're doing bucket time. I think you should be doing the curiosity program.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the curiosity program, and then maybe we could chat about that as well?
I really tried, and they have, very obviously visual boundaries in place that are suggesting your space, my space. If it's a very short period of time, it's a fantastic choice. But after 2 or 3 times, the child is still not engaging, then they may be just not developmentally ready. So we talk about the curiosity program being for children who are under 2.5 years developmentally. So that is a program that is about connection, engagement. The Attention Autism program is about connection and engagement too, but there is an expectation that at some point the child will want to come to the group if you're getting it as the lead adult.
And that they can cope in a group.
Right, exactly.
Well.
Yeah. So for children who are not ready for that, then the curiosity program is one-to-one. But again, it is very much about connection. So there are also 4 stages to it, and it's really good early years practice at what it is, and it is linked to how children who are autistic learn. So again, it is about adapting lead teacher, the lead adult's approach to fit with the learning style of the children. So we are in the first stages doing interaction type activities where we're just making connections. So Gina Davies and Dave Hewitt were colleagues back in the day and realised separately that they were doing these things instinctively because they're brilliant practitioners and we're reading their children. And so the first part is about engaging, connecting, making that connection with the child, letting the child lead, you going with them, no pressure, just sitting beside them, a little bit of a distance. And then when you have the connection, adding a little invitation, maybe to do something else and seeing how the child responds to that. And if they don't want that, you take the lead from them. If they do, then you have a lovely little game with them. So where it differs, Jordan, is that what Gina noticed was that people would say, parents would say, teachers would say, how many times, when do I know when to go on to the next thing? What is the next thing after that? Is there something else we could do? So people, as in us, adults, like structure as much as autistic children do. We like someone to say...
It's a very human trait to want structure and routine.
It makes you feel comfortable. Yeah, exactly. So that's what the curiosity program adds a lot of other things too, which I'll tell you about now. But to that first stage, it adds how many times, how long. And we're basically saying the curiosity program, this is not a race to the end. Relax, enjoy the process, trust the process. We say that in Attention Autism too. But Attention Autism is round about an 8-week program before you get to the end. But curiosity program, we are just watching what the child's doing, connecting with them. And then we add singing and music and rhythm, because children love that. All children love that. Autistic children love it too.
Any special education teacher or nursery teacher, I know a song for everything. And that's kind of the idea of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're making up songs that are to do with familiar tunes that a child might enjoy. Yeah. The
child makes a connection with that. So we call them signature songs because they match whatever it is the child is doing. You might use the child's name, but it's something that they're going to be doing every day that they are going to be really familiar with. So you pick a song, you go around the mulberry bush and you make it fit to milk is going round and round or whatever it is. That's Wheels on the Bus, I know.
Yeah, mine is always Wheels on the Bus.
Yeah.
No matter what words I do, it's always Wheels on the Bus.
Mine can be mulberry bush quite a bit. It just depends, but you pick a tune and you make it work for that child as to what they're doing at the time. It's fun. Again, it works because it's fun for everybody. If you've got an older child, an older young person, the program can be used with them as well. If they are in those very early stages of communication, we use them thrive. But we might do, instead of mulberry bush, it's all about the washing, about the washing, something like that.
Update, so have it person appropriate.
Yeah, so the song would be a little bit different. Or if that child liked nursery rhymes, we'd go with nursery rhymes. But we change it up a little bit for the older kids. But what I'm saying is the older children, young people, it's a really lovely program for them too. And then in the third stage, what we're trying to do is create curiosity. Now, as you know, autistic children are curious, naturally curious about lots of things. Often you can't predict it. You know, they'll find something that they're interested in, and it might be trains and it might be dinosaurs, or those are all the kind of typical things that we see. But what the premise of that part is, the creating curiosity part, is that the world is full of fascinating, interesting things. And if you really love trains and you're every time there's a downtime, you go to your trains, then you might miss out on all the things that are also out there. You might also like if you spent less time on trains. Now, we're saying plenty of time on trains, loads of time on whatever the enthusiasm is. Go for it, have that, definitely do it. But look at this. This is amazing. So we have gorgeous little containers, and that's a nice little tin that I have there that we use along the creating curiosity stage, with just something amazing in it. Now, this doesn't have anything too fabulous, but you might have a tin like this, and then you might have some of these in the tin. Guys, they might be in there, and you would take them out and have a look at them and then give it to the child and play with them together. Now, I know what you're thinking, Lorraine, health and safety, that's a very small googly eye. You are right there with the child, right there. So you're being very careful around that. And if you do have a child, obviously, who puts everything in their mouth before you can blink, don't use the googly eyes. Use something else.
That's me at all.
Yeah, exactly. But lots of children love that. So you then follow their lead in that curiosity part. So now they're interested in something else, and you find with them together lots of things that they're interested in, and quite often things that are in their environment, you know. So it might be something really simple like spoons, or something that's around them that are going to sound really good, maybe on a tin tray, or lentils on a plastic tray, or something that they see all the time. Even, I'm just noticing here, there's a kitchen roll beside me, you know, whoosh, out with the kitchen roll, so engaging. So we are creating curiosity, and again, how many times, how often to do it, and lots of ideas how to do that. So little containers are involved. So if any of you are coming on the training or want to do curiosity training, gather up all your little bits and pieces of jewellery boxes and fabulous looking containers. It is important what the containers look like, because that really encourages engagement and attention. If you've got something sparkly or unusual, rough or fluffy, that really helps the children to engage too. So it's important what you're using to create the curiosity piece. The fourth one is playing together. I nearly had. So yeah, lovely stage of playing together. So we're trusting the process. It's not a race. We could be doing these, for quite a long time. And so it is just what it says, so building blocks or building cups up, but always taking the lead from the child.
And that works. You can see why that flows so well into attention autism, can't you? Because all of a sudden they're interested in other things other than their one special interest. Right. So all of a sudden you've got more likely to get engagement out with the things that you're doing in attention autism. Yeah. They're also noticing you as the adult as having something to offer them.
Yes,
that exactly. They're not just meeting their own sensory needs and interests. So that also leads itself so beautifully to attention autism. So already they're learning those skills one-on-one, aren't they? And then you're putting them into the group setting once they feel more confident maybe in those skills.
You're right, Jordan. And you would not necessarily stop the curiosity programme, because in the attention autism programme, what we find is that children come on really well with the curiosity. So quite a lot of teachers, therapists run the programmes side by side for a while until they're ready to be into the attention autism programme. And then of course the key piece that you said earlier is using the strategies outside of the group. That's where we're headed, actually, is these strategies being embedded in everyday life. So children are going to start to know, and it's hard for an autistic child to learn this, actually, and it's hard for a teacher to teach these kinds of skills, like look to someone to see what to do. How do you teach that to anyone? It gives you a structure in which to teach these really important skills that are,
and also time. So we have 30 minutes a day set aside to teach these skills, and I think as teachers it's so easy to get sidetracked with your maths, your English, or whatever you call it, your sensory stories, whatever. You've got a slot for everything. By carving out 30 minutes a day for attention autism, basically what you're saying is this is just as important. What it can be teaching is anything that needs to be teaching in that moment, but you've carved that time out. Otherwise it's so easy to get missed, isn't it?
And I told you this on Saturday. I don't know if people saw your idea about the socks and taking your children to trampoline park and teaching that through attention autism program. That is a gorgeous way to.
We were going on a trip to a trampoline park, and we hadn't been on a trip with my class for the whole year, so it was a really big thing that we were going on a trip anyway. And to go to the trampoline park, you have to wear these sticky socks, and they are so non-autistic friendly. They feel weird. They're brightly coloured. They're trainer socks like these, so they don't go all the way up. It's lots of my children don't even wear socks. They will just wear Crocs. So for the first thing, it was such a big barrier, I felt, an unnecessary barrier for my children to engage in the trip, which is a trampoline park, which I knew they would love. I didn't want the socks to become the issue and a barrier for them enjoying it. And I knew the trampoline park staff were going to be very strict with us, that they'd have to wear the socks in order to enjoy the trampolines. So initially I thought, right, we're not going to get there and then struggle with this. And so we spent all week, because we do attention autism every day, we spent all week, my stage two activity was me putting on the socks and bouncing on the trampoline and having a brilliant time. And then my stage 3 was them putting on the socks and then having a jump on our trampette and having a brilliant time. So that when we go to the trampoline park, it's not a complete shock when I show them their now and next strip and it says socks and then trampoline, because they've been practicing this every day for the week leading up to it. They've also practiced trying on the socks, so they know the feel of them. It's not as scary. And they're doing it in a safe environment, rather than already feeling heightened by being in it somewhere new, and with noises and smells and all sorts of things going on as well. Actually, they're in a very safe environment with a very safe structure that they know so well. They know the attention autism structure so well now. They're really secure in that. It was a perfect opportunity to learn those new skills, and it worked beautifully. All but one put on the socks out of 10, which is, that is incredible. And the one child did eventually. It took them about 20 minutes out of the hour, but they did eventually do it. And huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. I can't express how huge that is to put on the socks.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was really clever on your part to think that's going to transfer so well because it's a safe environment that they feel safe in. It wouldn't obviously have worked, Jordan, if you just started the program, but the children were very with it.
Yeah.
So it is, you know, there's lots of places you can take it when you have the premise, the skills when you're doing it.
In the pandemic, we also did one about wiping noses, washing hands.
Yeah.
You know, how do you teach all the school? You know, everyone was teaching about washing hands. And
Yeah.
well, how am I going to do this for my sensory class?
Right.
Well, bring it into Attention Autism, and already, all of a sudden, we were washing glitter off our hands because it's a fun activity. All of a sudden, it's fun, it's motivating, and it's teaching a really important skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Potentially life-saving, actually, in that case. So yes, there's lots of innovative ways that you can use it. And the thing is keeping going. You know, we talk about this in the training as well. It's all very well if you have done the training, you've just done it, you're excited. People will write to me and say, Lorraine, I've been teaching for 23 years, got my mojo back because of this. And it's fabulous. But then 10 years, if you did it 10 years ago, the thing is, where do you take it? What do you do? How do you keep motivated? That's a really important part of the process too. So we're saying have groups in your school, have good ideas. You know, there's lots of good ideas online. We always have a slight caveat around that because we want people to get really high quality information about getting it right. But for ideas, there's lots of information out there that will help, or create your own. You know, go to an art museum and look at an installation and think, they're using slinkies. I could use slinkies to do blah blah blah.
And watch the kids as well. So sometimes I got one of my ideas was dimming with a slinky. Basically, was my stage 2, and that's my stage 3 actually. I did it as well because I watched a boy dimming with a slinky and thought, actually, that looks really fun.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that I would ever have come up with by myself because I use a slinky. Neurotypicals do, and I do the slinky, like because like we're taught to.
Yeah.
But he was wiggling it, and it was making some, and it makes your eyes go all funny, and it looks really great. And I thought, well, there's a stage 2 activity, thanks. You know, so watch them as well because sometimes actually they have the better ideas than we do.
Watching the children's a really good idea, or just thinking about what's happening in the community at the time. So Wimbledon, and I presume, is coming up at some stage. I don't think so. So you could do stage 3 around tennis, and then the children are hearing in class that vocabulary that they might be hearing all the time outside of class, and it can all come together for them. So it's a really good idea to think about, well, what's topical, you know, what's going on.
National days as well. It's really hard as well. I really struggle to think of meaningful ways of teaching the children, and I'm very authentic with my teaching. I'm quite stubborn as well. I don't do anything that I don't think will be meaningful for my children. So if I can make it meaningful, which often is through Attention Autism, you know, they can experience something, then I do it through that. So yeah, it could be a national day or a special day. You know, there's a holiday for everything, isn't there? At the moment, which is really important. Yeah. Like, for example, Down Syndrome Odd Socks Day, really important event that I really want to celebrate with my class. But how do I do that with my learners? You know, and it's taking us through that. We also lost a pupil this year in my class. Horrendous. You know, how do I support my students to navigate that? Yeah. Do it with Attention Autism. And I really liked that you spoke about earlier about it can be sadness too, and modelling that and honouring that. And I think, why not use Attention Autism for all of those things that we're supporting our children to navigate?
Absolutely.
But you couldn't teach them through a book or story because they're just not there.
They're just not there. It would not be as meaningful in those ways. And I think the key is just getting your head around how do you match the objective or the aim that you have to something that's going to be engaging, interesting, irresistible. How do you do that? But you can get into that mindset. I used to talk about being in a visual mindset, like a visual learning mindset. It's like, how could I help that child make sense of that activity in a visual way, starting to look at it where it would make sense. And it's the same thing with Attention Autism, is how do I teach it in a way that gets all the main points across, but they are going to understand. Maybe not the first time you do it, but you can also, you know, do repetitions. It has the biggest chance of them understanding thing. And we got to presume competence.
Absolutely.
Too.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. Let's offer it to them and assume that it's going to be understood, even if it doesn't look like it's going to be understood. Let's assume.
Yeah. In the curiosity program, you know, you might have something like these buttons or whatever, and you might say at the, you know, when you're playing with a child at some point, you would say, oh, a big red button, like a red moon, or something like that, you know, something really imaginative, or like hailstones, or, you know, if you've got something floating down. Because we are starting somewhere, you got to start somewhere, and we're going to say, right, the child's enjoying this, what better time to teach them something?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't hurt to assume competence ever.
Right.
Ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, my biggest fear actually as a teacher, to have a incredibly competent child that isn't able to show us that, and me not have done enough. That is, for me, that is my biggest fear.
Yeah.
So to combat that, I'd really try hard not to ever assume otherwise. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, we take these things into consideration. It's good autism practice, Jordan, is what I said at the beginning. Really is what it is. We're working on the premise of good early years practice and good autism specific practice.
You're saying that actually, I hear that a lot. So it's called attention autism. Can only autistics do it? Is a question I get a lot.
Everyone can do it, and we're actually at the minute we're doing really exciting inclusion projects. I think I mentioned it just a little bit in Birmingham, because our biggest one was in Birmingham. So that was a program where we taught teachers across 40 schools to use the program. They started to get confident in the program. And then we said, okay, it's time to take it out there to teach your colleagues about the principles of it, and help them to use them. So modelling and demonstrating, using visual supports, adapting your language, all of that. Help them to use it in their classrooms, and then move your activity somewhere else outside, or have your neurotypical children come into your classroom while in groups. Your autistic children are at a huge advantage in that scenario, because they know they're enjoying it. They're really in the program at this stage, and other children are coming in and joining with them, but they're not sure what's going on as yet. So they're learning from their autistic peers, and it gives a really lovely, structured, genuine, inclusive scenario for the children to really enjoy themselves and have something to communicate about.
Right.
So they're
and realise they're not that different.
Right.
Because they all love it.
Love it. And we just saw a lot of benefits for everybody, because you don't children in the group if it was just for the sake of it, just for a token, but all of the children loved it. It's good practice, you know. They were engaging more. They saw each other out in the playground and had something to engage over. They were asking for the games and activities, which is why we give them names there as well, and joining in together and taking it outside. So it wasn't necessarily just in a time situation anymore. It was outside, or in the assembly hall, or in the school outing, and certainly doing the traditional groups, but also the real key piece, using strategies beyond.
So I've got children that don't have an autism diagnosis in my class. I always have, actually. You do as a special education teacher, don't you? And in an attention autism session, they are just as benefiting from it as any child with either a communication or a social difficulty will absolutely benefit from attention autism.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Or a young typically developing.
Yes. Learning those social skills, learning those communication skills, learning the attention skills and engagement skills will benefit. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's almost, no offense, but I often say it's almost poorly named, because it almost sets people assume that it's not for them. Yes. And actually it really is.
Right.
It really can be. Yeah.
Well, attention everyone.
Yeah. Everyone, exactly. Well, I think that's why some teachers refer to it as bucket time, actually.
Yeah. And also you can't put a symbol on, you know, it would be a bit strange to put a symbol on a child's.
And easier to physically say as well. Some of the children can say bucket time, they can't say attention.
We're all about bucket time, as long as you know it doesn't have to be a bucket.
Yes, Is it true? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the questions was, do people call it bucket time because they haven't had the official training? Can you not call it attention autism if you haven't had the training? I don't think that's what it is.
Bucket time or suitcase time doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
No.
But we love bucket time, and we love bucket's so lovely to say in the early years.
It is.
They come in all these colourful types and shapes and sizes, but we're basically saying don't just use one bucket. Either change it out, then use an egg if it's Easter time, and use something else so children understand they can be flexible around it. Because what if you only use a pink bucket with a purple lid, and then someone borrows it one day?
Right.
Use something else, and then autistic children often do not like that without.
And it's good subtle practice to acknowledge that sometimes things change and that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point.
There are additional skills that you can teach with that maybe aren't. It's not necessarily about attention, but you can't learn them unless you're attending. But you may not be attending in the way that a neurotypical child attends, and that's what we're taking into consideration hugely in the programme. So I think we're fans, Jordan, both of us.
A little bit. Do you think it's obvious? Do you think? Somebody said actually, where can we find the training? Is it virtual, face to face, and how long is the training? I suppose for both of the programs, I suppose that might be.
So both of them are either face to face or virtual. The Curiosity programme is 1 day training. The Attention Autism programme face to face is 2 days. The Attention Autism programme is 75. It's very specific. 75-minute sessions for 6 sessions for Attention Autism online. Lots of people do it in the twilight hour, 3:30, 4:30, 4:45 type time, because that suits schools. And the Curiosity programme is 5 online sessions. So over 75 minutes as well. People can concentrate pretty well at the end.
I've done them. They do it really well, actually. I did the Curiosity programme virtually. You go into every, 15 minutes, you kind of go into the group. He's really clever. I don't know how you do it, but you split everyone into groups, and then you can kind of chat a little bit and show, then you're back all together again, and it's very visual and very engaging. Of course it is. It's Gina Davies. Of course it's engaging. But yeah, don't worry if you struggle with screens or attending for a long time yourself, because you do it like you do the Attention Autism session. It's very separated and bits, and I feel like you keep the engagement really well. It's also showing physical examples. I didn't feel like, I've done obviously in person and virtual, and I didn't feel like any one was better than the other. Actually, I've got a lot from both.
That is really good to know. Yeah, we really do try hard. Gina originally, obviously, and Lindsay too worked really hard.
Lindsay was there actually. I think she was the one setting us into groups actually.
All that, yes. They both worked really hard on making the online version interactive, researching what can people do at that slot that's going to help them engage. Of course they do. They kind of practice what they preach in that way. So yes, they're both engaging. And you can find them on our website, attentionautism.co.uk. Yeah. They'll be on there. Currently, we're just switching over websites. So currently, probably the most updated ones are on ginadavies.co.uk, but very soon it'll be autism.co.uk.
Okay, so I'm going to save this live to my grid, and if it allows me to, hopefully you could comment below and it can send you a direct link to the training, is what I'm hoping. So have a go. If you want to learn more, go to the website and get access to the training, then leave a comment below and I'll send you the link. Make it as easy as possible for people to find it, because it's really important. I think what's really important is to do the training as well. If you're doing bucket time already, that's fantastic. I'd rather you did do it for your children, but I'd rather you also do it well and do it. This is based in science, and there's a reason why. This isn't just pulled out of thin air. There's a reason why they ask you to do certain things in certain ways, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that. But yes, bucket time's really fun, but it's even better, and you'll see even better results if you do it the Gina Davies way. And I don't want to be fluffy around that. I feel quite passionate about people doing the training.
I think that is the key piece, is that you will see better outcomes. You will feel more natural to you as well. You're doing it according to the guidelines. But as I say, things have somewhat changed, as any good program does, but not the philosophy is the same and the concepts are the same. but just the detail of certain things we have tweaked a little bit over time. So yes, I don't want you to worry if you did it. I don't want you to stop doing it, but think about doing the update when it comes out.
I'm there for it. I did my training 9 years ago, so I'm an advocate for upskilling, and I'm jumping on it, aren't I?
So you're all over it, Jordan. Yes, we just need to get nice. No, we'll be delighted to have you, of course.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that you notice the changes as well in my practice when I've done it as well. That's the idea, isn't it? A couple of people asked, maybe the last question as well is, what if a child attended bucket time and now isn't interested? Do you go back to the curiosity approach, or just go back to focusing on stage 1? I mean, I suppose what I would do is try and change up what I'm doing with bucket time. Maybe change the location of the bucket time. Maybe it's got just a bit drab and a bit boring. So I might take it outside. I might make it a bit bigger, a bit messier outside. Maybe the adults have also gotten a little bit bored of it because it's a bit samey, and kind of maybe retrain some adults and get some fresh ideas in it. I don't know. What would you say?
I would say all of that, endorse all of that, and have a little bit of reflection time with your team. Say, what's going on? Why is it not liking it? How long has they been doing it? Seen any fresh things? Is there a part for role reversal there where he could do some? Or just present your other lessons in an attention autism type way. Like, we're doing pancake day, so we're taking out
that would be fantastic.
But not necessarily in the group, maybe at the kitchen area or wherever you normally teach, those kind of skills in the different context. I would take them out of the group, but I'd need to know more info to give you really good direction.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that with any work-based task, if the children aren't wanting to do it, then it's not up to the children to change. It's up to us, isn't it? To either change what it looks like, how we're presenting it, the location of it, what it is, whatever. So just about changing up and experimenting in as if it's new. Because I think we're our own worst enemies sometimes, aren't we? We get stuck in the routine, and actually, why don't we change it up? Why don't we add new things? And sometimes our budget dries up as well, and then we need to think more creatively about how, because there's loads of ideas you can do for nothing. Loads of ideas. It's just you've got to think more creatively, maybe, or
you can get a whisk, and Gina had lots of lovely videos, and Lindsay too, over COVID, because no one could get out to get any toys. At home one day and couldn't go back to school, so they had ribbons tied to whisks that they were spinning around, or just coasters that would spin, and you can be really creative around it. But for that little one, you'd need more info. All of those tips and tricks you're giving there, Jordan, are a good idea, but he just may be ready for more of the same, but in a real environment, in a more naturalistic environment outside of the
because I suppose the idea of it is it's teaching the skills to go out into the real world, isn't it?
Yes, that is the key.
And outside of the safety of the session, maybe he's ready to go outside of the safety of the session.
Right. Yeah. I would try those things. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Lots of people are also asking to hear my finishing song. So if you don't mind, I'm going to sing the finishing song for us to finish, if that's okay. Before I do that though, thank you so much, Lorraine. I already know this has been so important and it's just so encouraging, and I really hope people watch this and parents feel more involved in what their children are doing at school, maybe, and maybe want to have it a go themselves. Would be really great. And then teachers also feel a bit more confident to have a go for themselves with the training, or if they already have the training, to maybe hopefully it's given them some of their mojo back, and they want to go in there with a little bit more pizzazz.
Exactly. Right. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been lovely meeting you, Jordan. Well, first, of course, met you virtually, and then we had a great chat at the weekend, and I am sure we will be working together again very soon. I know we will.
Absolutely. And if there's been so many questions down here, that if we haven't got to your questions, I'm going to save this to my grid, and I would love you to leave the questions below. I'm going to tag Lorraine in the post, so she will be able to see your questions as well, and either one of us will be able to get to them from you, because there's some brilliant questions. So it is time to finish now. It's time to finish now. Goodbye, goodbye. It's time to finish now. Thank you, everybody. Subscribe, and I will see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Bye.